Hey, this is Rob Ryder, and today, Uncle Sam's Terrorism Risk Insurance. Are you protected? Only one way to find out, right? We're going to have to file a claim on April 30th, 2020. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to report an occurrence by Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Retluski, U.S. Army veteran. And this comes from this Terrorism Risk Insurance Act of 2002, which basically put this clause in all sorts of casualty insurances, right? Which we can see what they call them here. So it makes the United States act like risk manager over a particular part of everybody's insurance policy. So it'll make sense more in just a minute. But let's look at a few definitions. So what does that mean? Well, in that act, under property and casualty insurance, the term property and casualty insurance means commercial lines of property and casualty insurance, including excess insurance, workers' compensation insurance, and surety insurance. Okay, well, I think that anybody who owns a business and has employers, they pay for workers' comp insurance. But I think that under FICA, doesn't every employee pay into some kind of workman's comp insurance? Right? So, there's a program there somewhere for everybody, I think. And then this surety insurance, I think this is just like a general liability insurance policy, which what I did is I went and purchased one and I filed a claim. So we'll look at that in detail. But let's go on a little bit deeper. So also, then in my policy, then, it talks about this act, and it has a page talks about it, and it says that a certified act of terrorism, which is the thing that's covered by the insurance, means an act that is certified by the Secretary of Treasury in accordance with the provision of Federal Terrorism Risk Insurance Act to be an act of terrorism pursuant to such act. The criteria contained in the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act for a certified act of insurance include the following. Number one, the act resulted in insured losses in excess of $5 million in aggregate, attributable to all types of insurance subject to the Terrorism Insurance Act. And the act is a violent act or an act that is dangerous to human life, property, or infrastructure, and is committed by an individual or individuals as part of an effort to coerce the civilian population of the United States or to influence the policy or affect the conduct of the United States government by coercion. Well, I'd say that's what's happening right now. Right? Because at this particular moment, I'm being held as a POW by the state of Michigan, which none of their officers have a proper oath of office. And, if you've been following my videos, I've been pointing this out, harping on this for 2 years now, but really in the last couple months especially, that if you were to download 4 USC for United States Code 101, just that one law, and look at it, it has the oath that everybody needs to take before they can have any authority in your state. Right? It's federal law. It has to be done first because federal is over state. And it's IAB, which means state your name. I, Robert Allen Retluski, do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States. Something like that, period. That's all it is. It's nothing else. That right there. Now, if your state requires somebody to take another oath, that's fine. They can do that. But this is the one the federal government says they have to take, and nobody's taking it. So they don't have any authority under the United States. And so, they're not Michigan. They may be pretending to be state of Michigan, but state of Michigan is a corporation. It's not the government. The government of Michigan has been vacated. And there's an insurrection going on, and the insurgents are state of Michigan, with people like Gretchen Esther Whitmer filing a counterfeit oath of office under a fictitious name, not using her identity, on an oath of office and saying that gives her authority to tell me to stay at my house and that she can throw my ass in jail or do whatever else she wants. Well, I about fucking had it. So, I'm going to file a claim. And let's talk about that in a minute. But first of all, if you wanted to contact me, the easiest way is Rob Ryder's email address is courtofrecord@aol.com. right? No S on court, no S on records. AOL, not Yahoo, not Google, not Gmail, not anything else. AOL.com. Phone number 616-712-6179. Or there's always the mail, Robert Allen Ritluski, 10955, 14 Mile Road Northeast, Rockford, Michigan, 49341. And until this works, I still have to ask for donations. So if you could, please donate by PayPal or send it to the address that I just gave you. My PayPal address is robryder, ROBBRYDER, at AOL.com. Okay, so what is this all about with this insurance and so forth? So, first of all, I got to tell you a little backstory. Give me just a second to get ready. Okay, so if you went to Rob Ryder with 3 B's, ROBBBRYDER on YouTube, and did a search by upload date, you could find, you have to go back to this one here, Reading the Back of the Can, in which was the first time that I had actually read the guts of a general liability insurance policy. And it talks about, because this is a standard form for all general liability insurance policies, and it talks about malicious prosecution and false arrest and shit like that. I said, wow. Hey, that's pretty good, I'm going to go get the state's general liability insurance policy, because I know they have one. That's what I'm thinking at the time, and then I'll file a claim against their general liability insurance for malicious prosecution because of a traffic ticket I had before, because these people don't have an oath of office, right? So that's what was all happening during this time, this last 2-month period here, which a lot of the stuff happens in the background, because once you send a piece of paper, you got to wait for an answer, right? But these, reading the back of the can, you have a claim, wanted public adjusters, public state investigators, all have to do with this idea of using what the law says is available to file a claim with for general liability and so forth. And that these people called public adjusters are state officers who are the adjuster for the insured. And the only other type of adjusters there are adjusters for the insurance company, right? So I was looking for somebody. I wasn't looking to make somebody a public adjuster, although I think people should be one if they can. Here in Michigan, you only need to take a test, and I would go do it, except you can't go anywhere. Everything's shut down. So, but there's no, pre-schooling or anything. It's a matter of passing a 100-question test. I have no idea what's on the test. I'll go spend the $40, take it, see if I pass it. That's the idea. But they're actually state investigators, right? Because a public adjuster has a license from the state, and they could go investigate all sorts of things that I pointed out in these videos. Now, the problem with everything when they do these things is that when you get to doing the paperwork, they always have it set up for you to fail, because they don't want to recognize you with your full legal name, right? Robert Allen Ritluski. They want to use Robert A. Ritluski, or Ritluski, Robert Allen, or some other deviation, right? And Ritluski, Robert Allen isn't my name backwards, because my name doesn't have a comma in it. If they're going to put my name backwards, they just put Ritluski Robert Allen, but they put a comma. That's really signifying that that's recognizing that name as a business instead of as a person, as an artificial person instead of a natural person. See, they took this idea of person, which is a body and a soul, according to Webster's dictionary, and they split it in half, and they made a natural person and a legal person. Right? They stripped your soul and your body apart. Anyways, so right, they want you to think you have a middle name, and then you would have a middle initial. Well, Robert Allen isn't my middle name, so if it isn't my middle name, I don't have a middle initial. Robert Allen is my given name. It's my first name. And right, so it's your full legal name. They don't use Robert Allen Ritluski. They're not using your full legal name, or my full legal name. Okay, so this is where it started, and So what I did is I went and I got the insurance policy for the state of Michigan by doing a Freedom of Information request to this place called DTMB, which was the risk management for the state, and said, I'd like to get a copy of the state of Michigan's general liability policy. And they sent me this, right? There it is, name of state of Michigan. But see, then it says care of DTMB risk management. So really, I think DTMB risk management is the one that's insured, right? And that state of Michigan is just an additional insured on DTMB risk management's insurance policy after, having spent some time looking at this. But when I looked at it, it's like, well, this says, business description, state government buildings. So they don't claim to be the government, right? State of Michigan is not claiming to be the government. It's claiming to be over state government buildings. They're a freaking janitor. Well, then they can't put you in jail, right? And, this was like 72 pages long, which isn't very long. Well, since then, other people have gone to their states and gotten theirs, and their counties and their cities. They all have a policy, and some of these are very, very long, lots of pages and so forth. And, but that's what it was. And then in here it said, well, if you have a claim, to send it to this place here, newclaimsrlicorp.com. So I did. And, we're going back and forth. Of course, they don't want to do anything with it. But what I've learned a lot from doing this, right? Because I did it with the state and I did it with the county. And what they're telling me, that this is the people I talked to for Mount Holly, which is this RLI corporation, and the people I talked to for the county, which is the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association, or whatever the hell it is, authority, I think it was, that on the policy, that even though it says in there that it covers things like, let me go find it real quick. It'll be easier to look at it. See, they call this a form, right? And so forms aren't supposed to change. This just happens to be a form with no blanks to fill in. But it's a form, right? Due form of law. Form. Commercial general liability coverage form. And I think this thing is like 14 pages long, right? Or 1 to 16. But so every policy of liability insurance has something like this in here. And you read through it a bit. You get to this page here where it talks about personal and advertising injuries, which means injury including consequential body injury arising out of one or more of the following offenses: false arrest, detention, imprisonment, malicious prosecution, wrongful eviction, basically slander, oral or written publication in any manner or material that slanders and libels a person. Right? And so I was thinking, okay, well, I need to file a claim against their insurance. But both for the state and for the county, their adjuster, for lack of a better term, although they didn't prove to me they have a license yet, just some attorney saying that they're representing these people, said that, well, that covers the state. It doesn't cover you. This is their insurance policy. Right? This is to cover them from false arrest, detention, or imprisonment, a malicious prosecution. And I said, well, I had a hard time believing that. I said, well, how is it I could ever somehow falsely arrest somebody from the government, right? But okay, so I decided to try to file the paperwork and so forth, and like I said, that's where it sits now. But the other thing is, I could decide, well, I agree with you, that's what that means, so I'll go ahead and get insurance, and then I'll file a claim saying that I was falsely arrested, or whatever it would be. And that's what I was alluding to when I was showing these videos here, starting with reading the back of the can. Well, soon after doing that, a guy actually did it, and he got, because I couldn't afford it at the time, but he got it, and he went ahead and actually got a policy of insurance as a housekeeper, as I explained in the video, and that came from this right here, because this is one of the choices on this particular company I chose, where you can get insurance as a housekeeper. Well, what is a housekeeper? It's one who occupies a house with his family, a man or woman who maintains a family, a man or woman who maintains a family, state, and a house, a householder, the master or mistress of the family. Okay, well, that's me, housekeeper, right? Housekeeper. So that's what you want to be, or that's what I wanted to be, and that's what he got his as. And when he did, he wrote me about it, and between those times, let me see, email me to Joe. I had told Joe that, I've been reading into the Michigan law where it talks about proof of financial responsibility and a certificate of insurance. Now, this has to do with this is the Motor Vehicle Code of Michigan, where it talks about proof of financial responsibility may be furnished by filing with the Secretary of State a written certificate of any insurance carrier duly authorized to do business in the state, certifying that there is in effect a motor vehicle liability policy for the benefit of the person required to furnish proof of financial responsibility. In other words, the policy has to protect the owner of the vehicle. And they call it motor vehicle liability policy. Well, there is no such thing. There's liability policy, but a motor vehicle liability policy is, that'd be a really specific subset, but it could just be a liability policy, was my thinking at the time. And, so what they're saying is, well, you get a general liability certificate and you send it to the Secretary of State. Such certificate shall give the effective date of the motor vehicle liability policy. So a general liability policy should cover motor vehicle because it's general, right? Motor vehicle would be specific. General is general. It would include motor vehicle. So this isn't auto insurance because nowhere in here do they use the word auto insurance, right? This is motor vehicle liability policy, not auto insurance. This is the thing you have to have. This is your proof of financial responsibility. So such a certificate shall give the effective date, such motor vehicle liability policy, which date shall be the same as the effective date of the certificate, and shall designate by explicit description the appropriate reference motor vehicles covered therein, unless the policy is issued to a person who is not the owner of the motor vehicle. No motor vehicle shall be or continue to be registered in the name of any person required to file proof of financial responsibility unless such motor vehicle is so designated in such certificate. And so like in Michigan, if you don't have insurance when you go to register your vehicle, they won't let you register. Every year you got to go register and prove to them you have insurance. That's what this covers. And so, what he did is he sent them a certificate, and it looks like they've accepted it. So, let's see here. Then what did they say to him? Okay, so what he did is because he's in Arizona, and he sent it to Arizona. In fact, that may have been. I'll have to get it to him. Hang on a second. Okay, so then Joe wrote back to me, and he said, hey, in Arizona, it's under 284077, Certificate of Insurance. A person may give proof of financial responsibility by filing with the director the written certificate of an insurance carrier duly authorized to do business, state certifying that it's in fact a motor vehicle liability policy. Again, it doesn't say auto insurance. For the benefit of the person required to furnish proof of financial responsibility. The certificate shall be in the form, shall contain the information prescribed by the director. Yada, yada, yada. Right? So this is Arizona. It's in Title 28, Transportation, 284077. And in Michigan, it's MCL, Michigan Compiled Law, 257.518. Okay, well then, Joe sent it to the, did what they said, and he got this email back. I'm a receipt of a certificate of insurance from Thimble Insurance Services. Is this a policy for Mr. Blankenship's two vehicles? If it is a vehicle policy, are there any other vehicles that it should be attached to? My number is shown below. If you need to contact me, thank you for your assistance. And she's from the Mandatory Insurance Unit of the Arizona Department of Transportation. So, more on this later. I'm not really going to get too deep into this today. I'm just showing, well, that was something to do with it, right? Send a copy of the certificate by whatever way they want to see it with the Secretary of State and see if they'll consider it your auto insurance. And then get rid of your other auto insurance policy. So, all right, hang on a second. Okay, so now we'll get into the nitty-gritty. So here's the U.S. Department of Treasury website. And it talks about the Terrorism Risk Insurance Policy. And, where it came from, so forth. So you can download from here. You can get a copy of the Act. And then these are all the updates since 2002. And so we're into the 2019 Reauthorization Act. Okay. Basically, this particular section, this Terrorism Risk Insurance Program, has just been made part of all casualty insurance policies. Casualty, liability, whatever it is they said. We'll find out exactly here in a second. But okay, so what I had shown in these videos, in fact, this is what this is here, right? This public adjuster, we see this screen right here. That's actually this company. Thimble, which is www.thimble.com, and they're no better than anybody else. They just happen to do insurance in Michigan, right? When I was looking back in the day, I found this site, was able to download a sample policy and read it and say, well, hey, this is good. I was going to get it in my own name. That was the idea. Robert Allen Ritlewski, get the insurance, right? And then if somebody ever brings a claim against you because it's a lawsuit and they're bringing it against your all capital letter name, well, then I would give it to the insurance company and they would have to defend it. That was what I was thinking at the time, right, to use it for defense. But because I don't have any money and I don't really have a car and, I'm scraping by on a daily basis, I wasn't able to do it. But I decided, hey, since what I was told by the state insurance people, that this, the state insurance policy, where's the state at? Right, that this one here, that it doesn't protect me, it protects them from, the things I pointed out that's in the form, malicious prosecution, false arrest, and so forth. I'm going to have to get my own. But here it is, Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, right? This has been added to this one. So certified Act of Terrorism. It's all in there, all defined, everything you need to know is part of the general liability insurance policy. So anyways, I went here, and as you can see, you can get it for an hour, a day, or a month. Well, okay, I want to get a quote. Just go ahead and do it right now. What is it you're doing for a living? Well, because I had already looked at this before, I put in housekeeper. And there it is. It takes you here. You got to put in your 49341. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Yes, we cover Michigan. Outstanding. So that's how you do it online, right? These activities are excluded. Waxing floors during business hours, I won't be doing that. Performing work over 3 stories, won't be doing that. Please note these policies exclude coverage from parts of real property. Okay, I got it. I confirm I'm not doing any of these. Done. And here you are. Do I want to buy it by the month or on demand? Again, you can buy it for as little as 1 hour. But I went ahead and did it bi-monthly, right? And this price here was for $1 million. For like $3 or $4 more a month, it goes to $2 million. So that's what I did. I changed it and made it $2 million. Did it all online. And when I got done, in my in my incoming email was your policy and other stuff, right? So there's my policy number. I got a $2 million limit. Name of the insured, Robert Allen Retluski. Name of the company, Robert Allen Retluski. Now, again, I have an EIN in my name. I don't know. I've talked about that. Well, I haven't talked about it yet today, so let's look at that real quick. I really think this is what everyone should do, but you don't really have to. You could use it under your Social Security number. But I did a video in December 2017 called EIN and SSN in your name. And in there, I was talking about going to the IRS and getting an EIN number, employer identification number. It's not an employee. It's an employer identification number, right? In my name as a business, as a sole proprietor. So that Robert Allen Retluski, the business with an address, is the same as Robert Allen Retluski, the owner, with an address. Right? And so when I did the video, now I showed this form. Don't use that, and don't go to any pay site. I really wish I hadn't used the form, but at the time I needed something to show what I was doing, because once you do it online with the IRS, you can't go back and do it again, right? So I couldn't really show what I did. But if you go on the IRS website, you can get an EIN number in your name as a sole proprietor by just doing the process right online. And it's going to ask you for what type of business you're in, according to the NAICS codes. And I'm not going to pick your code for you. I don't even remember what my code was, but it had something to do with finance and taking care of an estate. But if I was to do it again, I would just use 99999 or however many spots there are in an NAICS code, because that's the very last NAICS code, and its definition is, business that's not otherwise categorized. So, you don't need to explain it. They gave you it, so use it. If I had to do it again, I'd just go make it all nines and say it's uncategorized. But with this then, well, now this is a business, right? It's an SS form. Here's my EIN number for this business. It's now Robert Allen Retluski has a EIN number, and it has a Social Security number. Because when you do this as a sole proprietor, you have to give them your Social Security number, because you can only have one sole proprietorship. If you've already opened up one and it's not in your full legal name, like this, you use some other style of name, well, you can go back and change it to put it in your name, but you can only have one sole proprietorship. So I'm not talking about doing this as a trust or as an LLC or anything else. There's nothing added after my name. It's just Robert Allen Retluski, sole proprietor. Right? Everything I do is my business. That's the reason I got insurance in my name. And, here's my policy. Here's my account number. Tells you how to report a claim. Been signed and countersigned by Markle Insurance Company. How to report a claim. Privacy notice, yada, 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 yada. Was there something I wanted to show in here real quick? Yeah, hang on, I got to go find it. Okay, sure enough. So here's the Markle Insurance Company confirmation of certified acts of terrorism coverage. Terrorism Risk Insurance Act. And so what this act does is that the federal government will now it's down to 80%. They will cover 80% of the loss on a terrorism insurance policy, or under this policy. So they're acting like risk management. So I said, okay, then I'm going to go ahead and fill out I'm going to go do what they say to do to fill out a complaint or to fill in a claim. Right? How to report a claim. Step 1, immediately report a claim. Step 2, get the facts. Print a market incident report form ahead of time from the claims page. So that's what I did. Filled it out and sent it in. And so this is what it looked like. Okay, incident report. This form should be completed if someone has been injured or property, including vehicle, have been damaged. Now, I didn't really go to look to see how many other forms there were. I want to make sure I filled the right form out, right, now that I've, thinking about this more. But at the time, I was just going to go ahead and do it and put it in and see what they say. So this was yesterday. Where's my, here's my certificate, right? So my certificate, as soon as I did it online, I get an email and I got insurance and I go and download the stuff. And sure enough, on 4/29/2020, I get insurance. Here's the producer, which isn't the insurance company, right? But they're the ones who provided it to Robert Allen Rutluski, both using the same address. That's a wonderful thing. And the insured, A, is Markle Insurance Company. NAIC 38970. So the NAIC is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. And it's for per occurrence, which is what I'm claiming, right? I'm not putting in for a claim. I'm putting in for an occurrence. It isn't how much damage was done. It's the fact that the damage was done, right? The amount of damage done to something is the effect, but the cause is the occurrence. So this is to cover the cause, which is the occurrence, the tort, right? General liability insurance is for torts. When you've been wronged, you file a claim on your general liability insurance for a tort. And these torts are what they call strict liability torts. It doesn't matter if the person meant to do it or not. If the facts show that it happened, it's a tort. File a claim for the occurrence. So that's what I did, right? And who's the certificate holder? Well, both my natural person and my legal person. And da-da-da-da. So, I have insurance. I'm going to file a claim. So who's the insured? Well, that'd be Robert Allen Rutluski, right? The address, all this, came off of the certificate. Owner of the property, well, that's me, right? I'm a Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army veteran, with the same address, same phone number. Property damaged, well, that'd be my all caps, Robert Allen Rutluski, with SSN and EIN number attached to it. Right, again, my artificial person, not my natural, my artificial person. This is your estate. All right? This is your natural person. That's what, that's the way I look at it. So everybody has their own theory on this, but I say they took person, which doesn't have any modifier in front of it, and they split it and they made natural person, legal person, and spiritual person. Right? They actually split you into 3 pieces. Well, any 2 pieces in a democracy rule, so we need to get 2 of them together and, stake our claim. So my natural and legal person have now been tied together. My spiritual person, well, that's the church. I'm still working on that through the church, but, that's for a different day. Right now, we're just claiming insurance because my property has been damaged. And so, injured property information, or injured party information, description of injury, occurrence of loss due to certified act of terrorism by state of Michigan, CARA DTMB Risk Management 525 West Alliance Street, Lansing, Michigan. Now, I could have just put state of Michigan, but, I had their policy, so I put the whole thing on there. But it may be better to put state of Michigan with the actual address for the state. The funny thing is, they used to be listed on Dun & Bradstreet, and I've really hammered them here recently in videos. I think somebody finally watched, and they took their name off of Dun & Bradstreet. Because it used to say headquarters, state of Michigan headquarters, and they gave an address and a phone number. Right? Well, that's not on there anymore on Dun & Bradstreet. So, but this is what you're doing. You're doing it for the occurrence of a loss, not occurrence of an injury and not occurrence of damage. Loss, right? Loss goes with terrorism. That's what I've, as I'm reading these sentences enough, that seems to be how they, certain words go to certain subjects, and a loss goes to the terrorism. Where damage goes to property and injury goes to, if they've harmed your body. So those may be the result of the occurrence of the act of terrorism, but the original thing was just the occurrence, which caused a loss due to certified act of terrorism. And so now we just need to make sure that whatever we pick's been certified or can be certified by the Department of Treasury. So incident information, right? So I got this insurance and it went into effect at like 9:26 a.m. So at 12:01 p.m. on the same date, I put in exact location, Michigan, United States. What activity is going on? What activity was going on? Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, certified Act of Terrorism. That's what's going on. Detailed description of the accident. Officers, agents, and employees of the state of Michigan conspired to usurp the authority of the government of the lowercase state of Michigan to coerce civil population of the United States in Michigan and to affect the conduct of the U.S. government, producing losses in excess of $5 million. Basically, I pretty much just copied what they said it was and put in a few other words to make it fit what I'm doing. And, I'm going to use their definition for the description of the accident or the incident. These persons have not filed and recorded the oath of office required by federal law 4 U.S.C. 101, oath by members of legislature and officers, and they have no authority. Well, who are my witnesses? Well, one of them is Gretchen Esther Whitmer, because she's the one that filed the fictitious oath of office as the governor. And the other one is Jocelyn Michelle Benson, Michigan Department of State, Bureau of Election. She would be the Secretary of State, because she has the records about what oaths have been filed. After the incident, what action was taken? I filed this claim in accordance with the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act. That's what happened. Additional information. In an act of bad faith, Gretchen Esther Whitmer filed a counterfeit oath of office under a false name with the Michigan Department of State as part of a scheme to usurp the constitutional office of governor of Michigan by a simulated legal process. Her deed is an act of war against the people of the United States and Michigan. I've attached her false oath and 4 U.S.C. 101 to this report. Robert Allen Rutluski signed it. I was doing it online and just because I don't write that good. So additional information. State of Michigan is not the government of the lowercase state of Michigan, and its officers, agents, and employees have no constitutional authority under the United States. These persons form a terrorist organization that must be exterminated. Yes. They must be, I'm not saying they need to be exterminated. That's really up to them. That's up to them and God. But this organization needs to be exterminated. Right? It's a terrorist person. And so that's the incident report. Right? That's how simple it was. And, hey, I sent that in, and soon after, does this say what time it was? When was this? Can you please provide a date of loss and confirm the policy number? Right, so I put it at 1:56 p.m. Right, and then sometime after that, 4:01 p.m. There we go. So I did, and right, they didn't. So far they haven't said I'm crazy. And so I filed it, and we appreciate you letting us know about your recent incident. We will see that a claim professional is assigned to this matter shortly. We will also send an acknowledgement letter to the named insured listed on the policy for their reference and to comply with state regulation where applicable. Such rules also require us to remind you that all policy terms and conditions in the applicable policy of insurance are not waived. This includes any notice of incidents, claims, or lawsuits against Markle. Please note that all suits or direct claims against the Markle Company must be legally served on our legal department. I think they're telling me that not only do I need to email it in, I have to serve it on their legal department properly. I gotta go find basically, I have to find Markle's, what do they call it? Registered agent. And so, I'm hoping to find somebody who understands this better now that I've done it and can say, this is what you need to do, right? Here's their address. And then basically send them the same thing. But, send it to make it official, legally served on their legal department. At Markle, we understand that these situations create a degree of uncertainty for those involved. We are committed to providing clarification of the process and addressing all matters with expediency. Oh, hey, I can just ask them, well, what do I need to do next? Right? We will give this matter prompt attention. If this requires urgent attention, please call this phone number. I guess I hadn't read that far down until just now. I'll be calling them today. Please visit our website for additional information. So they didn't say I'm crazy, right? Hey, they're processing my claim. What I want them to give me is a claim number, right? So I have a number that I can start tracking. But I bought the insurance in the morning, filed the claim on the same day, said that was the date of the occurrence, because that's what they had asked me is, what day this happened, and so that's what I showed them. So I want to go look at those, but where's the governor? So because I had said that I had attached a couple things to what I filed with them, which are, right, here's the oath of office of the alleged governor, which I've shown in a number of videos where, well, let's look at the law first. Here's the law, 4 U.S.C. 101. And again, everybody should go download this, right? Just put in Google 4 U.S.C. 101 and look for the gpo.gov. And you can download a PDF and carry this around with you. And you should take it to every place where there should be an elected officer and say, do you have this oath of office filed? And tell them if you don't, then you're going to file a claim against your insurance because of their terrorist act, right? Because they're trying to coerce you, a civilian of the United States, to do something without any authority because they don't have this oath of office filed. I'm talking about the township hall, the librarian, for God's sakes, all of them, right? The city hall, the attorney that's taking you to court, the judge that's acting like he's hearing the court case, the clerk that's filing your fucking paperwork. All of them. They're all supposed to have taken this oath of office. Well, they haven't. So go tell them, you haven't taken this oath. You need to cease and desist. You need to go and find out what you're going to do. Say, why don't you call General Flynn? See what needs to be done, right? Because he's Army intelligence. We'll talk about that later. We're right now in the middle of a U.S. counterinsurgency here in the United States where, the U.S. is the counterinsurgent. Or is countering the insurgency of state of Michigan and people that don't have oaths of office. So, but first we need to go to the Pharisee and say, hey, take the truth to the Pharisee. Say, did you file this oath of office? And they're going to say, well, here's my oath. And they'll give you something and you're going to look at it and say, but you see here it says I. You have to put your name in. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, period. Without anything else. It can't have so help me God. It can't have anything else added. This is what the federal government wants them to do. If the state or their, whatever agency they're in or whatever else wants another oath of office, well, that's fine, but it doesn't change the fact they have to do this one first. And this is the same oath that's in 1 Stat 23, right? Statutes at large. Very first law passed by the very first Congress after the ratification of the Constitution said that this is the oath that satisfies the 6th article of the Constitution. So really, state, local, national, every officer that wants to claim authority under the United States, whether elected or appointed to an office or trust, has to have taken this oath. I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. Well, it ain't happened. And so that's what I was complaining about. So, okay. Well, all that comes out of this act. Right? So if you were to go get your own insurance, or if you're already a business owner and you have insurance and you're already paying liability insurance and workman's comp, right? If that's covered under FICA, and so even if an employee is paying into workman's comp, then they should be able to file a claim. I don't know how to do it through FICA, but for business owners, we can do it today. Right? Anybody else that wants to do it, that could try to do it like I did, but maybe you want to wait and see what happens. But for $40, it cost me about $50 to get a month's worth of insurance, where it would have been $40 to get an hour's worth of insurance. So I spent the extra $10, got it for a month. But that's how much it's going to cost you to file a claim, under your own general liability insurance policy, a policy in your own name. I just think there's some way to do it under FICA. And, I'll work on that later on today. But here's the act, the 107th Congress, right? This act shall be cited as the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act of 2002. Ability of business and individuals to obtain property and casualty insurance at reasonable, predictable prices, right? Businesses and individuals, right? You should have liability insurance because you're 100% liable. So get general liability insurance. The United States government should provide temporary financial compensation to insured parties contributing to the stabilization of the United States economy at a time of national crisis. Well, that would be today. The purpose of the title is to establish a temporary federal program that provides for a transparent system of shared public and private compensation for insured losses resulting from acts of terrorism, right? This is why I use the word loss and not damage and not insured on injury. Let's see, where was that? Right on, see, because on this form here, it had, where did it have, right? Date of damage and injury. So I put the time in. Date of damage and injury and time of damage and injury. Right? I put the time in and the date. Well, they had emailed me back and said, well, what was the date of the loss? Right? And this says damage and injury, but it doesn't say loss. So I said, well, the date of the loss was 4/29. Actually, I said it was April 29, 2020 AD. But on your forms, you seem to use 4/29, 2020. Right? Because, sometimes, what is it? The Julian and Gregorian calendar switch where the month goes. So when you're just using numerals, you can get them backwards. Okay, so transparent and shared public and private compensation for insured losses. Well, then compensate my loss. Definition, certification. The term Act of Terrorism means any act that is certified by the Secretary in concurrence with the Secretary of State and Attorney General of the United States to be an act of terrorism. And so this is how it was in 2020, and now they've changed the definition to the way I showed to begin with, which is more like this here, where this is the definition now. Right? Excess of $5 million. That's why I said in my thing it was over $5 million. and right, in an effort to coerce the civilian population of the United States or to influence the policy and affect the conduct of the United States government by coercion. Right, so that's the act. And then, what is it that is the act? Well, I'm saying the fact they don't have an oath of office is the act. And we'll see what they say. They being the insurance company. Insured losses. The term insured loss means any loss resulting from an act of terrorism, including an act of war in cases of workers' compensation. Right? Now, this is lowercase w war. And what the pretend governor did is an act of war. So under your workman's compensation, file a claim. That is covered primarily or excess property and casualty insurance issued by an insurer if such loss occurs within the United States, which it did. The insurer means an entity, including any affiliate licensed to admit or admitted to engage in the business of providing primary or excess insurance in any state. Right? So the one I use can do business in Michigan, but maybe not in all states. But every state's going to have somebody that can do liability insurance. So use the one for your state. Insurer deductible, the value of insurance direct earned premiums over calendar year. So in the first year, it was 1% of that multiplied by 1%, and now it's multiplied by 15%. Right, that's their deductible. The rest is to be paid by the government. Property and casualty insurance means a commercial line of property or casualty insurance, including excess insurance, workers' compensation insurance, and surety insurance, and does not include federal crop insurance. Right, so nothing under 7 U.S.C. 1501. Not under private mortgage insurance, 12 U.S.C. 4901, or title insurance. Not under financial guarantee insurance. Not under insurance for medical malpractice, health or life insurance, flood insurance, or, so forth. So, well, they didn't mention general liability insurance, and that's the one you can get online as a housekeeper. The term state means state of the United States, District of Columbia, Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the Commonwealth of North, you know what they are, any territory possessed of the United States. Terrorism Insurance Program. Mandatory participation. Each entity meets the definition of insurer, must participate. Shall participate. Conditions for federal payments. No payment may be made by the Secretary under the section with respect to insured loss that is covered by an insurer unless, right, so this is what you need to do to get paid by the government. 1, the person that suffers the insurance loss or the person acting on behalf of the person files a claim with the insurer. Now, is the form that I filled out, because they don't call it a claim, right? They call it an incident report form, right? But is it actually a claim? And a claim is a document with the title called a claim that really isn't a claim, but an incident report form is actually a claim by definition. I would say yes, that this is the claim. Where was I at? Here we go. But anyways, so now does this mean that I did what I need to do, or does it mean, like they said in the letter they wrote, that I might have to contact their legal department and serve it on them also? Well, I'm just going to fail safe and send it to them. The insurer provides clear and conspicuous disclosure to the policyholder of the premium charged for insurance losses covered by the program. And on these, it says, on mine, it says there is no charge. Right? Added at no charge. The insurance process is the insurer processes the claim for the insured loss in accordance with appropriate business practices and any reasonable procedures that the Secretary may prescribe. I may ask him for those. In fact, I will ask him for those. What procedures has the Secretary given the insurer, right, to do this, to fulfill the insurer's requirements under the Act? The insurer submits to the Secretary, in accordance with such reasonable procedures as the Secretary may establish, a claim for payment from the federal share or compensation for the insured loss under the program, written certification of the underlying claim and of all payments made for insured losses, and certification of its compliance with the provisions of this subsection. Mandatory availability, initial programs. Basically, it's just got to, they have to have it. It's in all these programs. I'm going to go a little bit slower here. Hang on a second. Here we go. Section 104, General Authority and Administration of Claims. The Secretary shall have the powers and authorities necessary to carry out the program, including authority to investigate and audit all claims under the program. That's what I'm waiting to happen. You go investigate what's happening. Secretary, you're the one that's been given the authority to make the decision. Is it an act of terrorism or not? To prescribe regulations, procedures, to effectively administer and implement the program, to ensure that all insurers and self-insured entities that participate in the program are treated comparably under the program. See, general liability insurance is like no-fault insurance, right? So, our strict liability insurance, which is what general liability is a form of no-fault insurance. And we have no-fault insurance in Michigan for automobile insurance. And so when you have a claim, you don't file it with the other party's insurance company. You file it with your insurance company. So I think that's what this is, right? Participate in the program are treated comparably under the program. So, civil penalties. The Secretary may assess a civil monetary penalty, right? So that'd be like a penal sum in the amount not exceeding the amount under paragraph 2 against any insurer that the Secretary determines on the record after opportunity for hearing has failed to charge, collect, remit terrorism loss risk spreading premiums under Section 103. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, the amount, recovery of the amount, submission of premiums, preemption and nullification of pre-existing terrorism exclusions. So if it was excluded before, now it's a void. Of course, this is from 2002, so I'm sure it reads a little bit different in the newest version. Procedures and damages for litigation management. In general, if the Secretary makes a determination pursuant to Section 102, that an act of terrorism has occurred, there shall exist a federal cause of action for property damage, personal injury, and death arising out of or resulting from such act of terrorism, which shall be the exclusive cause of action and remedy for claims for property damage, personal injury, death arising out of or relating to such act of terrorism, except as provided in subsection B. Preemption of state actions. All state causes of action of any kind for property damage, personal injury, death arising out of or resulting from an act of terrorism that are otherwise available under state law are hereby preempted, except as provided in subsection B. Right? So the federal government's going to take over. It's all in the hands of the Secretary of the Treasury. Punitive damages. Any amounts awarded in any action under paragraph 1 that are attributed to punitive damages shall not count as insured losses for purpose of this title. So it's in addition to the insured loss, right? The insured loss stands by itself. Punitive damages would just be, well, I'd be a little more money. Right of subrogation. The United States shall have the right of subrogation with respect to any payment or claim paid by the United States under this title. So I think that what that means is that, the United States can take over for me and sue on my behalf. That kind of subrogation. Termination of program. That ain't happened yet. Satisfaction of judgments from blocked assets of terrorist organizations and state sponsors of terrorism. Well, the state of Michigan is a terrorist organization. It's coercing the civilians of the United States and trying to influence the government of the United States by coercion. Shall be subject to execution or attachment in aid of execution in order to satisfy such judgment to the extent of any compensatory damages for which such terrorist party has been adjudged liable. So if they find the state of Michigan is liable, well, they'll seize their funds and take them from them. So really, really good stuff. Guidelines for establishing claims or of a right to payment. The Secretary may proclamate reasonable guidelines through which any person claiming a right to payment under this section may inform the Secretary of the basis of such claim, including by submitting a certified copy of the final judgment under which such right is claimed, and by providing commercially reasonable payment instructions. All right, a certified copy of the final judgment under which I'm going to say that's a certificate of insurance. All right, I have the insurance, so I can file the claim. So I'm going to send the Secretary a copy of my insurance. And provide commercially reasonable payment instructions. Okay, I'll give you my routing number. Certain authority of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Seems they're going to get involved too. So, this video isn't to make everybody an expert on any of this. I really did it to make public record of what I did. And saying that, hey, if you already have some kind of insurance, you can do it too. Right? And if you don't, well, you could go buy some. That's what I did. And, I just filed a claim. Right? Just did what they said. Filed a claim. So, don't ask me what to put on yours. This is what I put on mine. This isn't very long, right? You can stop and write down all this stuff that I did, right? Just have this in one window stopped as you're filling out yours and say, okay, now what did Ritluski do here? Okay, he put his name here, did this, yeah. Or do it the way you want. I really don't care, but don't ask me what you need to put on yours, please. I don't know. Right? When I know, when it works, and I'll say, well, this is what I did and it worked, then go ahead and use this. But I can't tell you that yet, so this is what I said. Officers, agents, and employees of the state of Michigan conspire to usurp the authority of the government for the state, lowercase state of Michigan, to coerce, it should be the civilian population of the United States in Michigan, and to affect the conduct of the U.S. government producing losses in excess of $5 million. Why? Well, because that's the shit that it said it took to make it a certified act of terrorism. That's why I did it. These persons have not filed and recorded the oath of office required by federal law, 4 U.S.C. 101, oath by members of legislature, and they have no authority. All right, that's my detailed description. If they need to know more, they can ask me more questions. But, I'm all into saying as little as I need and letting them ask me a question after they prove to me they have the authority to ask, right? So now when they call me, I should be getting called by somebody that's a claims adjuster of some kind, and, well, then I want to see his license to make sure he is who he says he is. Who are my witnesses? Well, since I'm complaining about the governor, she's a witness. But she's not the governor. Gretchen Esther Whitmer pretended to be the governor. She's actually the belligerent. And Jocelyn Michelle Benson is my witness because in her office is where the oaths of office for state officers like the governor are kept. And she sent me the one that I showed you, and it doesn't match the one that 4 U.S.C. 101 says. So that's enough said. So what did I do? I filed this claim in accordance with the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act. Additional information or comments. In an act of bad faith, Gretchen Esther Whitmer filed a counterfeit oath of office under a false name with the Michigan Department of State as part of a scheme to usurp the constitutional authority of the office of Governor of Michigan by a simulated legal process. Her deed is an act of war against the people of the United States and Michigan. I have attached her false oath and 4 U.S.C. 101 to this report. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. You know, I'm not saying you have to do it this way. Just send it in. Right? If they want more information, they can ask you for it. Additional information or comments. State of Michigan is not the government of the state, lowercase state of Michigan, and its officers, agents, and employees have no constitutional authority under the United States. These persons form a terrorist organization that must be exterminated. End of statement. That's my report. And so that's my report to you. Did I show this other thing here, what I did? Real quick. Man. Yeah, sign up, right? I had to go in and give it an email address, make up a password, put in the name of my business, right? First name is always Robert Allen. I have no middle name, so Robert Allen Retluski. And you saw it printed out on my certificate, you know, Robert Allen Retluski with no commas. You ever purchased business insurance before? Nope. Continue. Payment details, right? Did it by credit card. Put it all in. Hey, you're covered. There's my policy number. Instead of when it begins. Your next payment is $36.70 will be charged to your card on May 27th. Unless I, stop them. So that's how I did it. And so now, reporting an occurrence, Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Retluski, U.S. Army veteran. Until it works, you can donate. Please do. Right? If you want to contact me, quarterrecord@AOL.com, phone number, address, you got it. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. You all have a great day now. See you. Bye-bye.